Down the Barrel starts now.
Howdy, howdy. So we're back again this week, folks, with Adam from CZ,
How you doing, guys? Good to be here.
Ben from MAG,
How you doing?
and Michael Stone from UBC, as well as the CUSF.
Hey, guys.
So, as always, super appreciative for our sponsors. So we'd like to thank Cabela's Outdoor Fund. Been supporting us almost since the get-go. So super appreciative for them. So make sure you round up every time that you go to Cabela's. Beretta, so super excited to announce that Beretta has signed on for another year again with us. So big shout out to them. And if you're looking in the market for a shotgun, for a pistol, make sure that you consider a Beretta there. Family owned since 1576, I believe.
Oh.
Got Vortex, so great veteran-owned company. Real appreciative for Vortex's sponsorship. So big shout out to them, and as well as Savage. Supporting the industry in Canada, making rimfires out of their plant in Lakefield, Ontario. So great to see them giving back to the Canadian sport shooting community. And big shout out to Savage for helping us out, giving us some guns as well as cash. So, Michael, what you got new for us in guns this week?
Well, I think the most exciting thing was actually just announced today. It's the new CZ 600 series. So CZ is replacing all their 500 series bolt-action centerfire rifles with the new 600 series. And probably the most exciting of the bunch is the CZ 600 Trail in 223 Remington. This is going to be non-restricted in Canada, and it's probably the best bolt-action AR equivalent that we're going to get. Competes directly with the Black Creek Labs MRX, right around that same price point, just over $1,000, and the build quality looks incredible. You get a telescoping stock, 16-inch barrel, M-lock handguard, all the bells and whistles. It looks really beautiful. I'm excited to maybe buy one. So, good stuff. I think they're gonna, the competition has nothing on this.
Fuck, you got your marketing done for you there, Adam.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for having me on, Mike.
Yeah.
Keep running, man. Go through the models if you don't mind, sales features, and finish off with price point. Right? You always want to close the sale with the price. And have a great night, guys. Take care.
Yeah, we'll get into it more later. There's a few of them. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, exciting and very relevant for our guest this week. New at the CUSF. So beyond giving out some prizes for our October Fall Classic, as well as our league competitors, it was nice to see. We had 5 different clubs compete in both trap and skeet. So good to get some activity in that front, as well as we have we're up to 4 clubs competing in our ORPS Rimfire series. So nice to see some action varied across the country. As well as from the high caliber side of things, we had our first mentored hunt. So Michael was there for that. Why don't you give us the down low on what happened?
Yeah, so we were very fortunate to have ACM Outfitters take 4 students out to hunt in Delta, so in the lower mainland of BC. So it's a private scouted farm that they provided to us, blind setup, dog, decoys, everything. There was 4 hunters and 2 guys supervising, and we almost limited on ducks, and we got about a dozen geese. It was an awesome day. It was just nonstop action. We were the longest break between shooting was maybe 30 minutes. It was just incredible. Yeah, I mean, I'm used to hunting in the swamp, public land, where it's just hours of sitting around and tromping through the bush and seeing nothing. And just having wave after wave of birds come in was so awesome. So, awesome experience. Really enjoyed it. Clayton with ACM Outfitters, I couldn't recommend him enough. He has an awesome setup. He's based out of, I think, Abbotsford, Chilliwack area. But he does hunts all over BC. So, highly recommend.
Yeah, well, Fucking awesome dude, considering the price point. Helping the students
Yes.
out. Take.
The amazing price of free. Really, I mean, I would almost consider paying $300 to just do that again because it was such a good day. Yeah, just it's when it's like guaranteed to be a good thing almost. That's so much better than just the sitting around in the swamp getting wet, not seeing anything, which is most of the time here.
That's half the fun of hunting, isn't it?
Yeah,
But-
a nice covered blind, just having the birds come right to you. It's pretty nice.
So yeah, I know I was talking to Clayton as well, and if you're a veteran, be sure to sign up with him. He takes vets out every Remembrance Day for free, and he's got a wait list for that. So be sure to hit him up. And yeah, big shout out to ACM for helping the students out, helping the fellas.
Yes.
So awesome. Well, yeah, glad it was a great experience all around.
Yeah, I hope we can do that again.
So, alrighty. Well, Adam, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh man, me or my sordid past? What are you looking for?
Bit A, bit of B.
I guess I'll keep it pertinent to the firearms industry. But been a member of the industry for about almost 10 years now. Started basically where I met Ben at Target Sports Canada, working on the range as a range officer. And sort of that's kind of what I did for 2 years solid, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, just going on and off the range, taking new shooters. And, that was one of the things that took my shooting from like an entry level sort of handgun person, like to a much higher level of ability. But it also really gave me like a love for the shooting industry as well, because day after day of introducing people to the firearms community and doing it in safe and a really fun manner, it's kind of like celebrating birthdays every single day, really. I was fortunate in my time there, which overlapped Ben's quite a bit. That there were never any incidents, never any issues, and going to work every day to quote unquote play with guns and introduce people to it was awesome. So that's kind of where I cut my teeth and I really started learning. I got into the industry like very shortly after getting my license. I'd actually been taken to Target Sports by my girlfriend to go and like just try the walk-in program. And up until that point, I didn't even know that you could own handguns in Canada. I knew about rifles and I'd been shooting rifles sort of my whole life, but the handgun game was sort of non-existent. So, the first moment I walked in, it was kind of like a kid in a candy store experience. And then once I tried that, I got my license. Once I got my license, I just happened to be changing careers, jumped into the gun industry, and I guess I've been here since. And BJ can I guess talk about his time, because when I started there, I was working on the range. BJ had more of an important role. Like I was just kind of like a meat shield, and Ben was sort of directing traffic a little bit more. So if I can pause and let him talk a little bit about what his role, or just kind of carry on with me for the next 15 minutes and everything I've done. But
no, I really enjoyed hearing about how you became such an expert shooter while working. I mean, I haven't seen these skills, to be honest with you, but maybe one day.
I don't remember using the term expert. I think I said my abilities were quickly improved.
No, for sure. We all had the really fantastic opportunity of working every single day, on average 40 hours a week, full time, paces away from a firing range. So, we'd be able to take range guns out, our own guns out. It was like, instead of, taking 5 minutes for a coffee, you can take 5 minutes on the range and, go put a box ammo down range. And like to get that access to training, I guess, even just going out and practice, it was really valuable. So I think all of our shooting skills, greatly increased in our time there. And, it was interesting to see such a wide variety of people come through the door. We got to get to work with so many different people, people who had shot for the first time, people who, thought they were experts, some who actually were pretty good at what they said they were. And, it was just a very dynamic and interesting environment to work in and be a part of. And, by the time Adam got there, I don't know exactly where I was in, exactly what I was doing. I think it was mostly still range officer stuff, but I was transitioning into the membership director side of things. And, I touched on this briefly the last time we spoke, but to put it simply, it was herding cats. I got paid to herd adult cats with firearms and keep them responsible and, teach them how to essentially follow the rules of the range and, just politely say, hey, this is the way we do things here. And, these are the rules and this is why kind of thing, sweep the floors and just put out fires wherever needed. But it was a really great environment. Honestly, we had such a great time together. And I attribute that all to the people I was working with. I met really like some lifelong friends out of that position, some really cool people. So I owe a lot to that job, and more than just my enhanced shooting skills is Adam.
More than your John Wickness.
Well, I feel like that's like the half the battle at every job, right? Is like it doesn't matter what you're doing. Fucking, if you're working with a good bunch of folks, then you're gonna have a good time. If you're working with people you don't like, then you're not gonna have fun.
No, definitely. And I think working at a gun range, as fun as, we're all pretty young in terms of, everyone I think is pretty much over their 20s when I was there. So, but young adults at least, so we're having a lot of fun, but there is always that element of safety and always that element of risk. And, having a cohesive team that is going to watch your back and potentially save you was a huge comfort as well, right? Because you might be on the range with a group of 5 people and then your partners are doing the same thing. And now you have 30 people on the range. And although thankfully nothing ever happened really during my time there, the potential is always there for someone to accidentally or knowingly cause harm, right? And, we were a cohesive team, or we were a close-knit team, and, everyone needed to rely on each other. And, that's when I go and visit dealers, not one of the fun, more exciting things I talk about, but, talking about the reality of having a safety plan, having contingency plans because of what we do, and after working at Target Sports as just like a range officer, I kind of climbed and clawed and cheated my way up the ranks a little bit to lead range officer and instructor. And now I'm sort of training staff and leading staff and, kind of finding that balance between working at Disneyland and, working at Heights, let's say, or another potentially dangerous job, because, I think, you need to be personable and gregarious enough to introduce people to something that's quite an intense first experience, especially if you've never been in the same room, seen a gun, heard a gun in real life. And one of the craziest things that I always noticed, or one of the things that was crazy to me, and kind of Ben can talk about this a little bit more in his current role, but, we're so conditioned and inundated by movies and by TV, our perception is completely false for most people. So when you walk in and you see someone pull the trigger on a live firearm and fire a 9mm for the first time, you see those misconceptions like disappear immediately, and usually it's people are having a great time and it's a smile, but it's usually that OF moment where it's like, oh, I didn't expect that. That's not what it's like on movies. And then they're looking to see where they hit on their target and they realize at 5 meters they've completely missed, right? And there's that sort of other shoot 'em up mentality that Hollywood or that movies in general have created is, everyone just bang, 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 and you're hitting it. And people really start to realize the difficulty and the skills required to actually be proficient, be a competent marksman or markswoman. So that to me was like a really cool aspect of the job. But I think after that, Ben, we both fell into Funker too, very soon after. Like Ben's basically my work wife. We've had a chance to do like a lot of really cool stuff together. He's my junior. He is considerably younger than me, even though he doesn't look like it. But that's my skincare regimen that I do religiously. But he knows a ton about firearms, and I've honestly learned like a shit ton about guns, kind of at his side, and not just like the firearms you sort of experience day to day in Canada, but about a lot of unique things and a lot of historical pieces. He just got an incredibly wide range of knowledge that annoys me because he backs it up with a fairly decent trigger pull, and he's getting a little bit embarrassed, which is fine. He's my buddy, but after that we jumped into Funker Tactical, which was kind of like on the media side of things, and Ben was kind of working the camera, and I was kind of doing the sales thing. And we got to do a lot of cool trips together and meet a lot of cool people and get into some somewhat scary situations here and there. And then
Yeah. So what specifically did you guys do for Funker?
I carried cables and stapled targets, and Ben was the cameraman.
Oh,
To
yeah.
put it simply,
That's kind of a simplistic view of things, but
yeah, it was a mix of
It's like
things, you know, like
Product reviews and just like what's new in the world of firearms type shit.
yeah. So there would be, you know, like we gotta talk to companies and, you know, deal with product and choose product and get things shipped and, you know, have flights booked and go places and do things and have meetings arranged. And that was the kind of thing that, you know, Adam and our other partner Paulo were really responsible for. And I held a camera and I took pictures and videos of the whole thing. That was more along the lines of it. But through that, we each covered for each other's duties. You know, there were many times that we had Adam holding cameras and editing videos, and, you know, we were all sort of part of a very cohesive and very well gelled team, I'd say. And it really led to some fantastic experiences and like some.
you know what I was thinking about recently, Ben? I don't remember where it was. I think it was Brazil, but you were like you were videoing a course and you were helping us clear the line. And there was that really tall guy who only had one hand.
Yep.
And he dropped the slide on BJ's finger, like as he was doing his safety checks. So this guy was probably like 6'3", 6'4", with BJ's hand stuck in his gun and no other arm. And BJ's got like a $5,000 camera in his other hand. And I'm just watching them here do this dance, trying to figure out how to rack the slide back.
Well, the issue is, okay, so first of all, this guy, you know, one arm is completely immobile. He had it damaged, you know, as a child, and he can't use it. It's pretty much tucked up.
Wasn't he shot as a child?
Shooting. Sorry?
He was shot as a child, I think, wasn't it? It was a
If
really
I
bizarre
remember
accident.
correctly, there was a firearm accident when he was about 3 years old, and apparently got shot and experienced some nerve damage. You know, that's the best I can recall. But
He shot amazing though. He was a boss on the range.
oh yeah. I never
His
mind.
safety checks were horrible.
Yeah. So anyway, he was great, and we got to work with a lot of, you know, he was a great example to teach one-handed manipulations to, and, you know, a lot of people got a lot out of that because there was a lot of police officers there. There was a lot of you know, more special forces type of guys there that are working for particular units throughout Brazil. And this guy, I think he was a civilian. And he came to the course. And so anyways, he's got one arm that's completely immobile. I've got one arm that's completely immobile. And, you know, we take the course at a certain pace and stop and go, okay, we're going to do a safety check and make sure everyone's guns are clear and put the gun down. So we're walking through and I go, oh, I'll give him a hand. And I stick my finger in the gun because he's way up here. And I'm going, okay, you know, I can't see the gun. And I go, can you bring the gun down? He doesn't speak English. We're not really communicating. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to get this done the quick way. And I reached up and I put my finger in like an idiot, and he closed the slide at the exact same time. And for about a minute or two, the two of us are standing there. I'm going, you have to open the slide. He's looking at me going, I'm assuming I can't open the slide. Look at my other arm. And it was a fun moment for us on the range. It took us into a nice break after that.
Now, in complete fairness, I will admit my first ever holster course, taught by a friend of ours, Loader, I did the exact same thing to him. Well, it's contested. He says I dropped the slide. I said he hit the release. Regardless, his finger got stuck in the gun, and you know, we had a kind of moment of intently looking at in each other's eyes while we decided what to do. And then I realized I should probably just rack the gun back and get his hand. You know, happens to the best of us, or the most handed of us as well. But yeah, after Funker,
I got a quick question. Is Funker Tactical and Funker 530 related at all, or no?
origin stories, and then parted ways.
Okay. When I think of Funker, I'm thinking of like videos of like, you know, ISIS trying to blow up tanks, that kind of thing. You know?
Oh yeah. So I guess we should define it. So there was Funker 530, which is kind of like the combat videos and all of that stuff, and then there was Funker Tactical, which is GN, who does all the camera work, and he would support different they had an instructor roster. So like Doug Markida, Instructor Zero, Ryan Hoover, and a bunch of similar sort of guys of a varied background. And Funker Tactical was sort of the umbrella in which they came together and shared content.
Gotcha.
So we would act as dummies, cameramen, bag holders, coffee getters, and whatever else basically kind of was required at that point.
Right.
No Afghanistan or Iraq trips, then, I assume.
No.
That was not our handiwork.
Yeah. Wow, thanks for Michael for asking the question. That's what I was fucking thinking, because that's exactly what I knew fucking Funker from too.
Yeah, Funker 530 is very real and very combat focused, whereas Funker Tactical went in more of the direction of training, to put it broadly. It would be training and products and marketing and things of that nature that are within a similar interest of space, but not the same thing.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's we're about halfway through now, kids.
All right, keep going.
Keep going. Okay, so I think I did about a year of traveling the globe with Funker Tactical, and I got a ton of really cool experiences and really cool stories. But it was kind of an unorthodox working environment to try and actually make money on sort of the business end, and I was trying to buy a house at the time, so I had to kind of bite the bullet and find like an everyman's job in a sense. So I jumped on board with the guys from Firearms Outlet Canada, FOC. They're like one of the top stores now in the country, and actually we pulled a bunch of guys from from Target Sports, kind of came over, and when I joined there, we were just sort of 3-4 guys in a small shop, and we hustled and we kicked a lot of butt, and we worked a lot of long nights and long hours, and it was had a really good team because everyone kind of complemented each other on their skill set, and kind of like what you're going through right now, Dave, being sort of a one-man army at times and having to sling it and get it done. And we just push, and in a very short time, everything kind of exploded for us, and ended up moving into a new store and getting pretty active in the community. Then came sort of TACCOM, which was one of Canada's largest gun shows to date, which was an awesome experience. It was put on by the team over at FOC, and so I spent about 4 years kind of working there.
So I guess maybe give us a bit of the background on TACCOM. So FOC started that?
Yeah, so TACCOM kind of grew out of an idea we had for our grand opening in our new location. And, we wanted to have like a big grand opening because we were in a new store and tons of square footage, super modern, just really nice, 100-foot pistol counter. We have a ton of guns on the wall. So we wanted to do something big and something grandiose, and it kind of spitballed into sort of a show in a sense. And I think the first year we did it in our warehouse space, we had maybe 24 vendors. A lot of our distributors and manufacturers came down. I don't know, was Mag there that year? I don't think you guys came that year.
I wasn't with Mag at that point, but I was
No.
there. I don't think Mag made it out to the one that was at.
No, I don't think so. But anyways, we had about 5,000 people come through our location in a weekend. Caused a lot of traffic jams in Ajax. Lineups around the block, and it was a winning format. People loved it. We had a museum there, and they brought in a lot of the prohib stuff and machine guns and historical firearms. We had a seminar series component. Vortex came in, and some of their pro team was there doing instructional sessions on how to mount the scope and differences between mills and MOA and just basics, kind of like that. And it sort of snowballed from there. And the owner, Fred, he doesn't do things in any sense small. And, he thought because we had such good success in this one area that we might as well swing for the fences. And we took it to the what is it called? The Metro Convention Center. The convention center out by Pearson Airport. And I think we had roughly 18,000 people come through the doors for that show, and it was a success. And unfortunately, COVID has put the brakes on it, and the May 1st OIC has definitely put a dent into it because, Canada, as you guys know, it's, there's a lot of mom and pop shows going on, and that's sort of like the main component when it comes to shows. There's not a whole lot of big sort of American style, as I'll call, gun shows. And I think the first time that I went to SHOT Show, I was with Ben, and all we could think of is like, man, this Canada needs something like this, and wouldn't it be incredible to bring this sort of professionalism where it's not, and don't get me wrong, I love my old timers, but it's not just an old timer with his table that he brought from home and a couple Mosins and a couple SKSs and odds and ends and bags of bullets. We wanted a really professional show, and Fred and the team at FOC really kind of brought that to life. And not only that, but the whole community was basically fundamental to it because it was a long shot. No one had ever tried to do it before. We were really close to Toronto, which is sort of the nexus of antique gun world. And, we had everything kind of working against us, but, the venue was agreeable, the CFO was agreeable. And then our suppliers really jumped in to support us, and
I think, honestly, that's a big thing. I feel like a lot of people don't realize, like, right? People like to hate on fucking like, the RCMP or the CFO or blah blah blah. But I've had nothing but like positive things to say about the RCMP, the CFO, the city of Calgary. Anybody that we've tried to deal with in the firearms space has actually been awesome to us. So I mean,
you're in it long enough, and you'll have a very varied experiences, but. A lot of life, as you know, is what you give, right? And I'm kind of a sweetie pie, and that's how I treat people, and I tend to get my way. But I've had great help from the CFO, and I've had some terrible help from the CFO. But in the case of TACCOM, they were pretty agreeable in making sure that we were licensed as a gun show to make the licensing process a little bit easier. And of course, this is pre-OIC, so the ATT laws were a lot more favorable for people, and we could enjoy AR still. And I envisioned a black gun show, basically like modern sporting rifles, and that's where TACCOM, the name, comes from, the tactical and competitive shooting sports show. Because we have the outdoor show, which is awesome, but it's more outdoors and hunting themed. And over the years, it's become less and less and less firearms inclusive, and they're kind of getting relegated to the back end. So we wanted just something for the sport and recreational shooter. And, like I said, I hope it was a huge success. And I hope once COVID kind of settles down that we'll see it for another year, because, these events, much like the CUSF, we need these opportunities as a community to really come together, break bread, realize that regardless of what our disciplines or our interests or what firearms mean to us specifically, we all share a common interest. And the sooner that we can get on the same page and really work together, the stronger we'll be as a community to represent ourselves to the rest of the world, right? And I think that was really important about TACCOM as well, to showcase a professional level show that wasn't sort of an anti-gun nightmare in perception. There was zero incidents. We had a lot of police presence just because of the volumes of people we had and because of the nature of what we carried. But I had a walkie on me the whole time. There was not a single issue during the show. Unfortunately, though, I believe Corey from Coat of Arms did lose a camera bag, which was unfortunate. I think he put it down and someone picked it up. But that's human beings. That's anytime you get a large population of people together, there's going to be a couple D bags mixed in there for flavor. But like I was saying, is our community needs these opportunities. It needs these podcasts. It needs people kind of like you guys who are creating opportunities for people to really share their viewpoints, more so than just kind of bitching and moaning on Facebook and social media. Arguing about what triggers lighter or what platform reigns supreme in XYZ situation.
Well, I think the big thing I see is community building, right? Like the more you get people together, talking together, hanging out together, like like actually creating that sense of community, the more people are going to want to join our firearms community and get sucked into it, right? Like, I'm sure all you guys have experienced it, right? You bring somebody out for their first time, and it's all smiles and laughs after they pull the trigger, right, and get rid of their initial fears. So I think that's what it's all about at the end of the day, right?
Well, I have a good friend of mine's a social worker, a youth and social worker, and he and I wax philosophical about the problems of the world, and his reply to me is always, that's why we have to invest in children. That's why we have to invest in youth, because they're pliable. They will be the next generation. Sorry, I got a very angry dog that I'm not paying attention to him. But anyways, and I think the firearms community is the same. If we're not actively growing our community, and I talk to my dealers and they tell me there's PAL classes full all over Canada, coast to coast Canada. Butts are getting in chairs and doing the CFSC course, and that's awesome and that's great. But our community is historically, or at least by my experience personally, we miss that first step where you can really introduce someone and really guide them. I find we have a lot of old wives' tales in the industry. And as I get into the hunting world, I'm a novice hunter, so Mike, if you got room on a guided hunt, I will pay gladly for someone to help me along. I'm in a knowledge vacuum when it comes to hunting. But as I was saying, like, if we're not creating opportunities for people in 10 years, we'll be stagnant and there will be no gun community. And that's why, as much as like me as an industry representative, I deal mainly with the dealer network. So the gun stores that you guys are visiting, and I support them. If my job and my focus stopped at making a sale to them and just stocking product on it, I'm not really securing a future for myself, right? I need to have a job for another 20 years or 30, God forbid. So, I'm always looking for opportunities, especially in my new role, to create these opportunities in the community, and the CCFR does a lot of great stuff, with the Ladies' Day programs and the range days, and, the CUSF is an absolutely awesome program. And I think in terms of what some people think is actually happening on campuses and them becoming sort of so-called liberal bastions where, any sort of right or conservative views or anything about firearms is persona non grata. I think, again, introducing the sport to people is necessary to bring people onto our side. And I'd imagine you guys would all be in agreement.
Oh, 100%.
Totally. I mean, UBC just ran, we're running 2 sold out PAL courses in November. We run more next year. So usually we run 3 or 4 and then maybe 1 or 2 core courses, which are like the BC hunting course. So we're generating awesome. 15, 20 new PALs every year at UBC. And I mean, that feeds our club and, gets people out of the range, new members.
And it makes safer shooters too, right? And there's so many disciplines in the shooting community that if you don't have anyone to expose you to them, you have no way of trying them or experiencing it, right? Whether trap and skeet or cowboy or IPSC or IDPA or PRS or rimfire PR, there's just so many different disciplines out there, and you could really spend a lifetime trying them all. I don't know if you need a couple bank accounts probably, but
yeah, I try to dabble in each one a little bit. And
but I love seeing that the community has really changed in the last 5 years, I would say, and it's becoming a lot more, and I don't want to use the word because it's got so many connotations right now, but inclusive. We're becoming a lot more open, and unfortunately we're being forced out into the limelight in terms of the legislation that's being brought up against us. And being the target of public opinion, we're sort of obligated to represent ourselves and be open to the rest of the community, and to the rest of the world, really, at least as it pertains to Canada.
And I mean, you say unfortunately, but I look at it as an opportunity, because now we have the opportunity to showcase what we're doing, and it's not like we're not being truthful or showing people the full picture. We actually just get to expose ourselves and get the media attention that hopefully gets taken away from some of the more negative aspects of firearms ownership, such as gangs, violence, suicides, etc. Like, because just last week, a gal from the University of Ottawa asked me to do an interview for their school newspaper. And again, right, it's like a huge opportunity for us because we can get the club at University of Ottawa restarted through the publicity that they're willing to give us for free, right? So, I mean, at least there's always two sides of the coin. So, it's as long as it's presented in the right way to folks, I feel like people can be allowed to make their own decisions, and I mean, hopefully, see what we're doing is not so bad after all, right?
Yeah, definitely. And you're right. I shouldn't say unfortunately. It's just, I'm indoctrinated by that distrust of the media. You know what I mean? And even though I've done some interviews for other news agencies, and they represented me well and they represented me honestly, and I've done some for others, and it hasn't been as awesome a portrayal. Now, that being said, it's definitely skewed towards the better. But no, you're right. Like kind of like that conversation we had when you mess up with a customer, and your sort of back's against the wall. Then this is where you can really show people what your intentions are and what your character really is. And I think as a community, we really need to do that. And you guys tell me, because you're of a different generation. Not to be super old on you guys, but maybe things are a lot more harmonious at your level than what I came up in the gun world, basically, where you had a lot of, like I think you can still say the sports shooters and the hunters, there's a big rift, but what I'm seeing is there's a lot of crossover now between communities, So for me, like I'm a sports shooter, recreational shooter, and now I'm going into the hunting community. And I think the younger people coming into the community are finding sort of a way through both, and I think that's going to bring us in. The more people who do both recreational shooting and actual hunting, I'm hoping that we're going to see a rebirth and a strengthening of the firearms community before we get legislated out of existence. Which I personally won't believe won't happen in completely. But now is the time, like you said, now is the time to get out and really represent our best foot forward and show people what we're really about and how fun we have, or how fun the community can be.
Oh, exactly. I mean, I think, at least from my personal experience, it's all about who you surround yourself with, right? When I was in university, it was all like sports shooters, recreational shooters. I never did any hunting. I moved back to Calgary, and fuck everybody I hang out with now hunts. So now I hunt. So, I mean, but I take people that have never hunted before, and I mean, I've been mentoring new hunters. I helped my buddy shoot his first deer before I shot my own first deer. So,
oh, nice.
But yeah, I guess I think the more and more you facilitate people exploring their interests, right? If somebody has an interest in hunting and they don't have a family background in that, why should they be limited by not knowing where to go or not having the permission or whatever, right? If we can open those opportunities for them and let them experience it for themselves, I think it'll speak volumes to the reason why it's so popular with some of the older generations, right? Like people get a lot out of hunting, which I can understand, but I mean, I never did until I actually went out and tried it myself.
I think you make a good point in that you need to find a shooting activity that fits in with someone's life for them to really jump on board with it, and if that person's had the itch to go hunting since day one, and they want to fulfill that, and they do that, and they have the time and the place and the resources to go out and do that, that's going to be a part of their life forever. Some people, I think shooting doesn't really have a place in their life, and that's fine. Maybe they've gone to the range, they've tried it and said, hey, I don't like this. Other people want to go every single week and practice with the IPSC crowd, and everybody wants to shave tenths of a second off their times and their scores, and they want to figure out the best way to gain that particular stage, whatever it is. I've always been a big believer that everybody's got sort of an activity in there, whether it's skeet shooting or long distance precision stuff, or it's rimfire, plinking, or whatever it is, fast or slow, short distance, long distance. I think the key is finding an opportunity for someone to participate in a shooting activity that fits with their lifestyle and what they're capable of doing on the regular. And once you find that, you're hooked. Like that's a hobby that you're going to continue doing for decades to come, as long as you can.
Oh, and I think it speaks to a bit earlier what Adam was saying, right? There's a little something for everybody.
Exactly.
So, I mean, there's so much out there. It's like it's pretty hard to try all flavors of shooting unless you want to drive yourself broke.
Very true.
Yeah.
It's interesting. One of the things that fascinates me about firearms so much, other than the engineering and the skill involved, is just as a human evolution of technology. It's just such a completely polarizing object. You know what I mean? And if everywhere you go in the world, there are so many different associations that people have with firearms, and they range into such extreme categories. And I find that like really interesting. Like even for me as a firearm owner, and if you ask me like, Adam, why do you own firearms, or what do firearms mean to you? It's not an easy question to answer per se, or it's not that it's difficult. It's just not a simple answer, But on one end, like I like shooting, I like the skill involved, I like the excitement of it, and these are all like very kind of surface layer. But they're also, feelings of this is our history in Canada. This is the history of our ancestry. This is the historical aspect of it, or there's the survival aspect of it in the terms of putting meat on the table, or the security aspect of it, which is sort of part of what our neighbors to the south is fundamental to them. So to me, it's like as a human object, firearms are kind of really interesting from like a social perspective. And I've always been curious to ask people, like when I meet them, is like, why do you shoot? Or like, what got you into firearms, or why are you into firearms, or what do firearms mean to you? And especially talking to people who have had no exposure to them and understanding what it is means to them, and what is their real exposure to it. And I was at sort of a hunt camp a couple weeks ago, going after bear unsuccessfully. But some of the people there, harvested a bear, killed a bear, however you want to phrase it. We had a dead bear in camp, and I got to see it broken down, field dressed and processed basically. And it's just, I'd never seen that before, at least with a bear. And how many people outside of that have ever seen, a chicken breast before it's processed and put in a cellophane package, right? And for me, like hunting is really interesting because you have that intimacy and you have that appreciation of food, and I did a guided hunt recently for pheasants because I've been skunked way too much in my hunting career. And a friend of mine wanted to go check it out. So I thought, why not? Let's go. It's $100 for a day. Let's go shoot some birds. And it was the first time for me processing like game birds. Like I've done duck before, but pheasants, you do the step on the wing, and it's fairly grotesque for most people. But, you can't really appreciate your food until you've seen it from field to table, really. And at least in my opinion. And I think, again, that's a really unique human experience for us living in this part of the country, for a lot of Canadians who never get that intimacy with their food, or never get that experience with animals being processed into something that you throw on the barbecue later, right? And I think if more people had opportunity to that, you'd really consider more what you put in your body, perhaps, or you'd really consider, the meat industry, or how animals are treated, or what farming practices are. Because the majority of the hunters I met are honest, caring people who, while there is the thrill of the hunt, they don't fetishize it. They're not out there to kill animals. They're out there to fill the freezer, and provide food for their family and themselves. But it's interesting how many levels it exists on, for a single person, let alone for every human that's ever encountered or will encounter a firearm. And that's my philosophical take for 9:00 at night over in Ontario time.
Well, it's pretty interesting too, in terms of like at least I find it's a very primal, not urge, but it's like very fulfilling to be out in the woods looking for a deer, for birds, whatever it is, to bring meat home for your family, right? There's something that activates different circuits in your brain that's not going on necessarily all the other time when you're sitting at a desk, right? So it's a lot to be said for it. But well, why don't why don't you walk us a little further down the journey into the distributor / manufacturer side of the industry?
Okay, so yeah, after FOC, I joined another Target Sports member. It's kind of like Target Sports was like a jump off point for a lot of people in the industry, or at least working on the range. And to be honest, as fun as it is somewhat grueling. To be on the range all day, the concussion, the lead levels.
Well, that's a great, I guess, almost lead-in question. Sorry to interrupt you so soon, but I guess so if I was let's say a 18 to 21-year-old student and wanted to get involved in the firearms industry, what's the best way to get cut my teeth?
It is a great question, and it is a hard industry to get into. But at the dealer level, like finding good quality people who have their PAL has historically been a challenge. When I was doing hiring at FOC, I kind of relegated myself that I would hire someone based more upon their character than their firearms knowledge. Because I could teach you most of what you need, right? A little bit of reading on your own side, but I can't teach people how to really be go-getters. But talk to your local ranges, talk to your local gun stores. They generally have events, they generally need people to volunteer, and it's an awesome way to kind of get a foot in the door and kind of showcase your skills. I know, like at FOC, we did quite a lot of events there. That was sort of one of my hats. And I used to do what I called industry spotlights, and I'd bring in manufacturers and I'd bring in notable people in the industry, and I'd let people come up and touch them and ask them questions, basically, and expose them to it. And a lot of the volunteers that I needed and who worked with me eventually became staff. Talk to your organizations, CCFR, they're always looking for field officers, the CSSA, even the NFA, there's the CUSF. So there's a ton of organizations out there that really need bodies and really need dedicated people. And if you're really sincere about getting into the industry, maybe a psych eval, second guess that. But otherwise, if you're still into it, a great way is like a walk-in program, what's called a familiarization program or a walk-in program. There's about 10 maybe ranges throughout Canada that do that. That's an awesome way to do it. Volunteering at one of these organizations' events as like a range safety officer or as a ticket person or whatever help is a great way to get in the industry. And, that's traditionally where me as a manager would hire from, that pool, right? I would, usually would be a customer who would kind of spend a lot of time in the store. Bring your counter guys and gals coffee. If you really want to know the secret to the gun industry, it's caffeine. So if you're looking for that 5% discount on that gun you really, really want, take 12, man. Bring a take 12 in for the team. Bring coffees in for the team. Customer service can be a grueling job, and that one customer really makes your day, but it ingratiates yourself, and that's what I do with my customers. The dealers, I always bring them in goodies. And to be honest, I've had a number of dealers recently ask me if I know people in their area. So if you're looking to get into the gun industry, make sure that your handling is on point. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to know everything there is about guns. The wonderful thing about the community is there's always shop talk. There's always someone willing to take you under their wing and teach you. So, I came in as a complete noob. I was still shooting based on my martial arts practice, which was super bladed and 1982 SWAT until my buddy Loader, what the hell are you doing, man? This is how you hold it. This is how you shoot. This is how you stand, basically, And so, if you're don't let your experience hold you back. And if you're a hard worker, talk to your local gun shop. They're always looking for good people to at least help out, and talk to your organizations because they desperately need volunteers.
Yeah, I agree. I think the stores and the ranges both are really, really valuable if you're looking to learn more. The hands-on experience that you get working at a store and at a range, and if you're lucky enough to have those two things at the same place, it's invaluable. You get to see the end result. You get to see the guns come in. You get to see them put price tags on them, sell them to a customer, make that
Get your
transfer.
grubby fingers on them first.
Yeah, exactly. When there's this new big product launch, you get it the night before and you get to look at it and go, okay, cool. Do I want this or not? There's a lot of upsides to it, but really, like, that's how it worked for us. We got lucky enough to end up in the same spot at the same time. We got to see, the distributors come in and talk to the store. We got to see, the customers walk in and buy that gun that we just spoke to the distributor about and ordered and went, hey, people are loving these. Let's get 5 more of these. People don't like that so much. Let's get this accessory. You see so much like working in a firearms store. It's invaluable. And then to actually see it and use on the range, you get to see customers, using it and going, oh man, this thing really hurts my thumb, or these night sights are great when there's light, but I can't see anything if it's a little bit dark, or, I love these shooting glasses, but after 20 rounds, they get foggy, whatever it is. Like, there's so many different things, and you go, oh, okay, well, that's good to know. And like, okay, bank that little piece of knowledge, and it's the best place to go. So if you've got a range or a store and you're into it at all, exactly what Adam said. Go help out. Bring them some coffee. Just, take up a few minutes of their time to let them know you're a cool guy and you're interested. And I think it'll end up benefiting you in the long run.
Honestly, coffee and donuts got me my first range membership. 3 months.
What a bad way to go.
Probably $100 worth of coffee and donuts. But every other week I'd go by, drop them off. Hey guys, how you doing? Yep, me again, just here to fill out another application. And finally they got sick of me coming and weaseling around, and they just brought me on board. Then I had to start it all over again to get my club level safety. And this is kind of what I was talking about before, is how our industry misses the boat, because we can get you into the class, but getting you from the class onto the range safely and with the proper technique is where we've traditionally failed. So the first time I ever went out onto the range with my own handgun, there was nobody else on the range with me, and I had that sort of going for a swim in the ocean with no one around you, like, oh geez, I hope, God forbid something happens. But there was no one there, like even on my club level safety, and maybe because I challenged it, I missed that step. But, I've taught club level safeties, and you do get some hands-on, but you're in a classroom of 20 to 30 people potentially. And, it's the machine's got to get you through your course. But what I was saying is we need to develop this, not only just introducing people to it, but what are the next steps? And one of the things that has traditionally frustrated me about the Canadian industry or the Canadian community is our lack of enthusiasm as it relates to proper training. Canada has like incredible instructor community, ex-military, ex-law enforcement, Olympic shooters, ex-competition shooters, current, all of those. And, in kind of true Canadian fashion, they're a little bit humble, they're a little bit under the radar, and you got to do a little bit of digging to find them. But I found the culture of going out and getting training hasn't really existed up until the last couple of years, where now, black badge courses becoming even more popular, but sort of that other style of training or tactical style of training is starting to kind of pick up speed. And, I always encourage people to go and actually spend the money. Like, working in a store, you see a lot of funny kind of purchasing behavior, we'll call it. People are people, and people will do with their money as they will. And I support fully that. But, if you're going to spend $1,000 on a pistol and you're going to spend $500 on a couple cases of ammo, spend $200 to $300 on a professional who will show you and actually make you a more proficient shooter, which is going to give you more enthusiasm and more reason to get in. And whenever I work with new shooters, which is one of my favorite things, and actually now that I've sort of escaped the consumer cycle, I'm not customer facing as the corporate world would say. I don't work at the point of sale. I work kind of discreetly in the backgrounds now, behind suppliers. So I'm the manufacturer's rep. So really the only time you'll see me is like at these kind of events, like Pokeroo in a sense. I don't know if you young guys know who Pokeroo is. BJ, right?
No clue. What the fuck is Pokeroo?
Really? That's insane. I wouldn't even know how to describe Pokeroo. But anyways, One of the things I enjoy most are going to my dealer events so I can be back on the counter. And it's like, if you're a professional athlete, not to compare what I do with what they do, but, you're going out for the simple sake of you enjoy the community, you enjoy the topic, you enjoy the hobby, the lifestyle, and I love talking to, and like now that I don't deal with end users 7 days a week, kind of 24 hours a day, I'm like so much more relaxed and calm, but it's given me back that real enjoyment of getting down into the community and really talking to people. And those are the people I love working with most, are new people, because I feel like I can give them, a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of proper instruction, even though could be across, like, if you're standing in front of me, it doesn't matter if we're at Tim Hortons or a gun store, I can give you grip, stance, sights, trigger pull, and I can send you on your way with a couple exercises and, the suggestion that you come back to me and bring your target and we'll talk about it, and from a customer service perspective, that's incredible customer service. I would shop at that gun shop all the time. For me, it's kind of like me doing a little bit of good work, because like up until working at Target Sports, I never really had that. So for the first year of shooting, although coming from like a rifle background, pistol was like a weird and wild thing, and I just couldn't get the hang of it. Again, I was doing everything exactly wrong, instead of saying, and I still kind of laugh about that. And I still talk to my buddy Loader, who, he was one of these guys who really took me under his wing, and he taught me a lot. And like Ben took me under his wing and kind of taught me a lot about something that they were super passionate about. And when you're super passionate about something, you can instruct and you can guide and you can encourage people in a way that, the lady at the DMV doesn't really get to enjoy her interactions with her customers, So we always like to create a community sense at the gun store. Like your local gun shop should be like your barber shop. You know what I mean? You should know their names. They should know your names. And, just remember that behind those pricing or behind that issue that you're facing, there's another human being you're dealing with, right? And like I said earlier, you come hot out of the gates, that customer service might not always be there, right? Because the one thing I do love about the gun industry is there's very few companies with HR departments, so you can kind of cut a little bit loose. And, I love that sort of let your hair down attitude. Obviously, professionalism is key and crucial, but you coming in hot, you might be a flash in the pan, and your problem might not get solved, unfortunately. But
Adam, that reminds me, I've got an email from a customer here that says his shadow's shooting low and left, and he needs to do something about that.
Definitely needs new sights. Definitely needs a new trigger kit. But what he really needs is
a whole bunch more ammo too.
Whole bunch more ammo. But most ranges will have some kind of intro course, and that's, everyone wants to, I've dealing with, people get a pistol, they hear about IPSC, I want to go shoot IPSC right now. And, I'll never say don't go and do it, but, it's not like, again, whatever you do, whether it's ballet, shooting, martial arts, baseball, hockey, whatever that, we're so fixated on results that we really miss kind of like learning and the fun about things, and if you've ever seen new shooters shoot, what is like one of the most telling things that they do, and it's funny because like I've kind of gone back into like boxing and stuff like that, trying to get my my physique back, and I find myself doing it is just like focused on what your end results are, so a new shooter will do this, and then they'll look to where they shoot, and then they do this, and then they'll kind of look to where they shoot. And it's a perfect metaphor for how we approach skills and how we approach learning in this part of the world, right? We're so focused on where that bullet hits and how close it is to bullseye that one of the most common advice I give to people is showing them a target and say, look, I'm looking at your target, and what I'm seeing is consistency. Now you're consistently off center, but you're consistent, and that's what we're building upon right now. And it's a lot easier to take someone with a decent grouping that's lower left or lower right or whatever and bring them up to center than to take someone that's sort of checkered their target, So
the fundamentals are key for sure. But you also, one note of caution is that not everyone who will take your money to teach you how to shoot is going to do so well or even safely in a lot of cases. And that's not to say that there's a large number of them, but you do have to be wary when you are working with firearms in a training environment. So, go to the good instructors, go to the guys that your friends have gone to, go to the guys that are recommended by your local gun store guys. Don't just find some Facebook ad and sign up for some random guy's course that you've never heard of, because I've seen some absolutely abhorrent training methods and some things that have been done on ranges by instructors that I've been present in that you just have to walk away from. You have to recognize it. And as a student, it's difficult. You might have paid this person some money and you might have spent your Saturday and Sunday, whatever. You might have driven a long distance, spent your money, and you're now, a day into this course. And this instructor does something that, kind of makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. Like it takes a lot to walk away from that. But at the end of the day, trust your gut. And if something's not feeling totally safe, feel free to walk away. You have every right to not stick around for unsafe practices. That all being said, I would say 98% of the instructors I've come across show no signs of this. It's by far the minority, but it is a serious thing. People can get hurt, people can get killed, all because of someone's negligence and, someone's self-perceived ability to teach you how to shoot and how to operate, a potentially very dangerous item more special, more faster, more better, more like the special forces or JTF2, whatever they want to brand it as. Some guys are better than others. Most are great, but be wary.
Reminds me of the, I'm sure you guys have all seen the video of the fellow that's showing people how to shoot the first time and NDs and then just plays it off like it's fucking nothing.
You meant to do that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that was an excellent demo.
Yeah, that's the only people I take my training from.
You like to stay on your toes.
Go back to your initial question, there is a lot of opportunity. A lot of people don't assume the gun industry is as large as it really is. I don't think anyone really knows exactly how big it is, but there are in and around 50,000 people employed in the firearms industry. There are firearms manufacturers in Canada. There's an incredible instructor community of every discipline, whether it's trap and skeet, IPSC, tactical style shooting. Then of course you have your dealer network, which are all your local gun stores. Some are brick and mortar, some are online. And they kind of run the gambit in size and in expertise. And, I've been fortunate to have visited a lot of gun stores in Canada, and most of them are filled with awesome people. Sometimes weird, sometimes quirky, but generally awesome people. And the thing I love about it, even though I say, I had a hard time kind of figuring things out, my first time on the range here and there, everyone's like, oh, have you tried to shoot this? Have you tried to shoot this? Have you ever done this? Come on over. And I remember one experience, we had a horrible time out on the skeet range. And we were finished up and eating our traditional breakfast as we do after each failure, and just talking like, man, we just, what we need is like some kind of old timer to come over and just really show us young bucks the rope. And sure enough, the thought comes out, and this old timer appears, asked to sit down with us, and I'm talking sweats, sandals. We ended up calling him Trap Jesus because he was just amazing. And, we start chewing the foul with him, and we tell him how terrible we are. And he says, well, shit, you want to come shoot around with me? Okay. And basically he took us out, and, he said, stand here, point here, see, and he had a million old man sayings that just made the whole event even better. Winter chicken dinner was one of his favorites. But man, did he not have us up and smashing doubles within 5-10 minutes, and we still talk about it. And, I'm kind of ashamed I completely forget the guy's name because this was a couple of years ago, but
Trap Jesus does it justice, I think.
Trap Jesus, he came down and he blessed us with a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of know-how. And as
long as you didn't die for your sins.
Forever, yeah.
You die for your under 10
for me, is what he really did. And, that's our sport's a sport of repetition, right? It's rounds down range, and it's good rounds down range, especially too.
Consistent training, right? It's a perishable skill for sure.
But that's the beautiful thing about it, right? Like what, and I ask a lot of people this too, because it was something that was always asked to me by instructors, why the hell are you here? What are you doing here? What do you hope to gain? What is your goal? What brought you into this class or into this situation? And I love asking people that. And, me, like, I would say, like, I'm kind of like an everything shooter, and lately I've been plinking around with my 22 at my buddy's property, shooting cans and whatever garbage is around, and just kind of getting back to those good old days of playing shinny in the streets, sort of thing like that. Just actual punking, shooting for no other reason but can you hit it, and kind of like playing like horse as we shot, and now that I have a decent 22 and my work somewhat demands of it, getting into the rimfire PRS is something I'm super excited about. Super excited to start kind of learning about. And for me, I've always been sort of a quirky small guy, so having being humble and being able to have some self-deprecating humor has just allowed me to like really be an eager student. So I love going to get training from different instructors. I always start out at the foundation course, like whatever their intro course is, I start out with. Even though my shooting level may like now garbage, but when I was regular, like intermediate shooter, if I could say so myself.
Oh, CZ will be proud.
Intermediate shooter, somewhat fast, somewhat accurate. You smile all the time. But I always start with foundations, because like I always believe the devil is in the details of your foundations, and most instructors organize their courses in a progressive fashion. And if you really want to get the most out of your instructor, and it's like any relationship, you got to learn to communicate with each other, and you have to learn to figure out what the hell each of you are saying. So I like to kind of start at square one, and that way when I do class 2 or 3, I'm not undoing all of the bad behaviors or stuff that I normally do. I know what's kind of expected of me, whether they want my foot this way or they want my arms this way, and I can kind of get the most out of the class. Now I might drop 90% of what I'm taught in the class because I do it a different way, but it's that sort of 10% that is worth that weight in gold, but unless I kind of, I don't know if you've ever heard an instructor say whatever, like come in as an empty cup, unless you come in and you can kind of be like, okay, I don't have to hot boy it, or I don't have to be a showboat, or I don't have to show everyone how wicked awesome I am with my gun. And you just kind of sit there and learn and figure out what this guy's trying to get you to do, or girl's trying to get you to do. You gain so much more out of the course. And like for me, parting with my hard-earned money is never an easy task. And I want to feel like I'm getting that value out of a course that I, not only money, but time as well. Because usually in Ontario, at least, you're driving, up to 2 to 4 hours to get to a range that can accommodate whatever you're doing. And then you're spending, 10 hours to 12 hours on a course. That's a lot of time for a person, and that's a lot of money usually. So my encouragement is to people to get training and go into a foundations class, even if you are, John Wick. If you're starting with a new instructor, start the basics and see, like, again, how do you critique or comment on something if you don't have a good picture of it? Whereas I've been in courses and I've taught courses where you might be teaching a particular technique that applies to a particular context specifically, and so, oh, that doesn't work, or I know this, or it's, there's one in every class, but I found, that one person is usually outweighed by the 9 or 10 other earnest people in the class. But, it is a male-dominated industry at this point, and it is an alpha male industry. So, don't be afraid to kind of be a beginner again. Don't be afraid to sort of shut up and listen and do what's being asked of you without, my instructor told me this, or my buddy told me this, or this is how I've always shot. And that's kind of my best advice. That's for after class.
It's the humility and curiosity, right?
Yeah, and like I said, like being on the counter and talking to people, like talking to end users or customers or just the members of the community again is, like it's enjoyable again for me. Not to say that I was at a point where it wasn't enjoyable, but when you're managing a large retail location and you're dealing with a lot of the issues, like I was the fireman there in a sense, putting out the fires. It beats you up a little bit, and it makes you a salty pirate, and towards the end of days at FOC, like there were a couple times where you wouldn't want to catch me with a complaint. And you can go on YouTube right now, or you can go on Google right now, and you will find those Adam is a jerk reviews that I wear as a badge of pride.
When I met him, he didn't have the pirate beard either. That's
Retail has made me arguably much more.
Fuck.
But, to kind of wrap things up, I after FOC, I worked for Amchar Canada, which was a Glock supplier. So from the store level, like up into the supply chain or distribution chain further up the river. And that was awesome because, I don't have to deal with customers anymore per se. Not that that isn't lovely. But, I can really work with dealers and really sort of support the industry directly, and by industry, I mean like the dealer industry. And because by this time now, I've been on the range, and I've been on the retail, and I've been on the management side, and I've been on the event planning and team building side. Like I like to think I have a bit of a unique viewpoint or perspective of the industry. And, I'd like to say I haven't run into every scenario, but, you'd be hard pressed to find a customer complaint or an issue that I haven't bumped into at least once or twice, so it's nice to sort of be able to kind of lend that experience to the dealers. They're pretty savvy. They know what sells. They know what they want to buy. So, I don't have to be such a cutthroat salesman. And what I like to think of myself, and I don't know if this kind of sounds arrogant, but it was advice from a friend of mine who's actually the Canadian sales manager for Yeti. So he's got like a real job in the corporate world. And before I started working for a distributor, because, like any normal human being, I had my doubts whether I'd be able to take on a role of this nature. And, my territory was all of Canada, so it's a lot of customers. It's a lot of things to keep track of. And he kind of saved my soul, and he told me that my focus shouldn't be on sales, which it never really is. I'm a terrible salesman, but to become a trusted advisor. If you can become your dealer's trusted or your customer's trusted advisor, the sales happen organically. But, for me, the important part is to me is focus on the growth of my customer, right? And that's kind of how I do my sales pitch. If I make you money, you're going to turn around and shop with the guy that helped you make that money. And that way I don't have to be underhanded. I don't have to force sales on people. And it's just a way that I can kind of exist without, sales quotas and sales numbers and things sort of turning my life into a really stressful situation. Because like I said, I came out of the trenches, man. Came out of the trenches on the ranges, and it's so funny to me because anytime and I'll tell you the best part about being outside of the commercial aspect of things is that I'm an absolute savage online right now, because there's nothing people like a customer cannot affect me anymore. You know what I mean? My boss is 6,000 miles away. You can't leave my store a negative review. You really can't leave me a negative review. If you speak Czech, give it the old college try. I'd love to see what you got to say. Better people have come before you and failed. But it allows me to really defend our dealer network, because I think our dealers, like from a consumer perspective, when you exist in a modern context where you have Amazon, where you have Costco, where you have Walmart, where you have Home Depot, and where you have these big box chains where you can really just kind of run amok and get your way. And I glorify my days in doing that. I love, sticking it to some poor Walmart employee or some Home Depot schmuck in an apron. Our dealers really take a lot of guff. And, when a customer looks and they see like Glock, for instance, or they see any gun, what it retails for in the States, and they look at it and it's, $300 more up in Canada, a lot of people think, oh, these dealers are hosing us, or we're really, being taken for a ride here. And the reality is that's not the case. Obviously the gun stores have to make a profit. It's not a dirty word. People should want to support the local gun stores because they're the ones supporting the organizations, supporting the ranges, supporting the competitions, supporting the events, and really supporting the industry as a whole. And, they're not just a bunch of fat cat venture capitalists. The overwhelming majority of gun retailers, other than Cabela's, other than Canadian Tire, are mom and pop stores. You know, they're privately owned, and they're staffed by entrepreneurs, and they're staffed by, you know, Joe Publics, and, you know, they're trying to make an honest living out of what their passion is, you know, and that I super commend, because it's a grueling task. It's, you know, especially in our industry. And what I've realized is, like, a lot of customers and a lot of people in the community don't realize that the gun industry, on the one hand, it's like any other retail location, but on the other hand, the infrastructure surrounding and serving that industry is completely different. And by that, I mean, shipping companies aren't friendly, you know. So if I'm Amazon and I ship you a package and it gets broken or it gets destroyed, no problem, insurance covers me. The shipping companies and the insurance companies don't work like that with firearms. Firearms are irreplaceable. So a dealer eats that cost, and then he sends you out the gun that supposedly never made it, or didn't make it, or got damaged. You know, the banks have been difficult in the past to deal with. The web hosts and the websites have been difficult to deal with. So COVID has kind of skewed my time frame for everything. But maybe 2-3 years ago, Shopify removed all firearm sales. I don't know if it was a global initiative, but it was, at least in Canada. And that left a lot of retailers like scrambling to migrate their website. And if you've ever run a website that has a lot of inventory, it's a grueling task. It's horrible, right? It's like finding a new barber or a new dentist. So the gun industry exists in this world that is really not conductive to supporting them as a professional business. You know, at the end of the day, you know, with fishing, we're $8 billion a year. You know, that's not chump change. That's not nothing. And unfortunately, to own a gun store means you've put a ton on the line in terms of your inventory, but you've also exposed yourself to a ton of risk, because we don't have the safety nets that, you know, Best Buy or Gap or Amazon really enjoy. So when that product goes missing and you're pissed off that you didn't get your order, understandably, but, you know, maybe understand that to replace that dealer is kind of eating the cost. And not that that's a customer's fault or that they really need to augment it, but a little bit of understanding goes a long way. If I'm the guy listening to you irate on the phone and say, well, you know, should have shipped a week ago, where the hell is it, kind of thing, you know. And like I said, go to Google. You'll find the reviews on people who didn't get my best days.
They're really that irate and they need the handgun this fucking Tuesday. Maybe don't rush to sell
anything, man. There are gun Karens and there's gun Kevins. You know, just the same way there's yoga Karens and yoga Kevins. It doesn't matter what you sell. If you interact with the public at large, there's going to be issues, right? And it's and not to say that the customer has to eat whatever problem, but what I find a lot of people don't understand is that our industry is unique in a lot of ways, and one of those ways is crucial in that we don't have the support. You know, another big way, you know, and recently was a Facebook thread that I just waded into like an absolute monster, and was just kicking customers away, and it was defending Tenda, because they have a policy, and a lot of stores have had to adopt this in regards to high-end product and high-end optics that aren't PAL required. They've become targets for fraud. You know, the fraudsters have found the gun industry. And, you know, I know at FOC, there was a week before we became hit to it that we lost a lot of money. And the credit card companies aren't going to help me when I'm hit with fraud. The insurance companies aren't going to help me when I get hit with fraud. Basically, all I'm doing is turning my pockets out and pouring money out into the world. And, you know, we had to get savvy real quick. So a lot of gun stores now have this. And yes, it is not a requirement to have a PAL to buy a Loophole or whatever expensive optics out there, Vortex. But stores have had to put this PAL notification on to be able to combat fraud. And some people, you know, because again, going back to what I was saying, what firearms ownership means to them, they see it as an infringement on their privacy, or they see it as an infringement on them, you know, a breach of something. And it makes people irate. You know, and I kind of, again, the ability to go on there and say, listen, guys, this is why this is a situation, and this is why this is a policy. And, you know, it would really help your local gun store if you were just agreeable. Like, again, this is just my personal opinion, but if I'm going to order off your website and I'm going to give you my name, my address, my credit card number, the PAL number doesn't really give you, like, in reality, this is also something I've found is the PAL, like when a gun store checks your PAL, they don't see in your gun safe. They don't see a list of what's registered to you. They see the exact information that you supply when you submit an online order. They see your phone number, your address, whether your PAL is valid, and the classification of license you have. Restricted, non-restricted. That's it.
Prohibited for the real fellas.
Yeah. But that's usually Bob from Manitoba calling, eh? He's looking for some rounds for his Mosin, and he's got a great gold cup that he wants to tell you all about. But it's an awesome community, and like by community now I'm talking about the people, the customer base, the people who are at the ranges and shooting. I've been to a lot of courses, competitions, gun shows, and I meet amazing people, and obviously, unfortunately, there is a segment of the population that, regardless of what their interest is, they're scumbags, and they do scumbaggy things. But overwhelmingly, like, I've been in the industry 10 years. I'd like to think I don't have any bad blood out there. Everyone, now that I'm kind of at a unique level in terms of Canada, because there's maybe 4 or 5 people who are actually operating as a manufacturer's rep from a company that is foreign to Canada. So I'm kind of leaning on the guys who are a little bit longer in the tooth and who've been in the game longer. And, Gilles, who's the Mossberg rep, and Jim Castles, who's the sales manager for Glock Canada. These are guys that I've sort of worked with throughout my entire industry, but they're also community members that I can call up now that I'm facing unique situations that I haven't experienced before at this level as a manufacturer's rep. They're kind of helping me along down the road and really giving me some good advice and some good insight. And it has to be going that each one teach one mentality in our community, from the professional level in the industry, with the big stores and the little stores and helping guys out, from the top tier shooters to the people just getting into it. And that's what I like to see. And like, mind you, the format of a podcast kind of appeals to a younger generation, but more and more the guys behind the counter are a newer generation. The girls behind the counter are a newer generation. They're breaking a lot of the sort of conventional stereotypes held about our community, and they're just adding a new flavor and a new injection of enthusiasm, because again, when I entered the industry, the first thing that was hammered into my head is like, buddy, you better enjoy him now while you got him, because the government's coming to take him, and it's, and I kind of lived in this constant state of fear, like the sky is falling. And although history has kind of proven those old timers right in that advice, it has made shooting and becoming a community member more difficult. And that's why it's so important that we get these young, fresh people in who are like super excited. And they don't have to be young. I should stop saying that, because a lot of my customers just getting into shooting are 40, 50, 60, 70 years old. When I got into the industry 10 years ago, my father followed me into getting his PAL. He joined the club that I belonged to. And like, as our life, or at least my life, gets busier and busier, his gets easier and easier. It's something that we can set aside time and like do father and son stuff together, and it's an easy way for us to kind of connect, which is kind of awesome.
Well, that's hilarious, because it's the same thing as me and my mom.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, well, you can always find somebody to, I don't know, share a shooting passion with,
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like, who doesn't need that release? Like how many new people have you taken shooting? They're just like, God damn, I feel better. And I don't exactly know why, but I feel better, because it's that little bit of adrenaline dump, that little bit of like, we're going for a ride. And it's an amazing experience. And I love, like, being on the range. That was like my favorite thing, especially taking someone who was like super hesitant or super fearful, and, just getting to be like, all right, one round, one hand, we're doing this. And they'd look at you like, oh my God, this guy's going to be insane. And I always have a bit of gallows humor. And I'm like, you know what? Don't worry. You're not going to get it disfigured like the girl I had on the range last time. You're going to be fine. And you're not going to be disfigured. He's like, all right, punch out and pull that trigger. And, I got to do CCFR Ladies Day down at Select Shooting about 2 months ago. It was amazing, man. Like, it reminded me again why I love this community so much. It was like all women, none of them had ever shot. every single one of them had an amazing time. All the other RSOs were just great shit, and they weren't professional RSOs in the sense that they were employed by Select Shooting. They were just community members who volunteered their time, who are interested in developing their own skills and finding a way deeper into the industry. And it's like, I made a bunch of new friends. It ended up getting me invited out for a bear hunt. And it's just amazing how a little bit of positive attitude and a little bit of openness creates incredible opportunities. And you just might meet that person, like Trap Jesus might, come and bless you and teach you some of the hard skills, or, a buddy might take pity on you and put you on your first big game animal, which, again, after 20 years of doing it, doesn't seem like a big deal, but you still remember, like, these are the experiences that life, like, really offers you. Like, going to the range and blasting rounds and training and practicing is awesome, but, teaching someone how to shoot properly and giving them the tools to progress, or introducing something to a passion of yours, like, it's a different experience than just going to the gym or just going to the range to, work your cadence or work transitions or whatever you're doing. It's amazing. This
Absolutely.
This episode is for Trap Jesus, wherever he is. It was Oshawa Trap and Ski Club, old timer there. Look for the flip flops, buy him breakfast after, and he'll take you out for a round.
God bless.
God blast. Which isn't as good as my pirate pun, but it's still pretty good. Yeah, so to wrap all of that up, after the distributor level, I kept climbing because my goal getting into the industry is one day to work directly for the manufacturer. And, and if you work hard and if you undermine enough people and step on enough throats in this cutthroat industry, you'll get to the top one day.
You have to have an uncrushable spirit, that's for sure.
That's the moral of the story, eh? Burn as many bridges as you can.
You know what? I used to watch, I don't know if you're an Arnold Schwarzenegger fan, but Conan the Destroyer, the greatest thing in life is to see your enemies driven before you and hear the lamentations of their women. What more could we ask for, right? But no, like, going back to the question, there's a ton of opportunity out there. And although it seems kind of like a closed community, and it seems like, it's one of those industries where people think you need to know absolutely everything there is about guns, I'll let you know. As a manager, I'm not looking for your knowledge on guns. Obviously that's an asset, but, I need hard workers. I need people who are trustworthy. I need people that have enough common sense and awareness to keep an eye on that front door to see who's coming in my store, right? And someone that I know of that I can, back at Target Sports, our emergency word was no duff, that if I yell out no duff, that someone's going to understand what I'm saying and give me some assistance, right? So don't let your experience level or your proficiency level or your ability to shoot or how many bucks you've smashed. If you want to get into the industry, we're always looking for good people.
It's all about attitude, eh?
It's 150% attitude. It is the one thing, like, as a manager, it is the one thing that I cannot give you. I can encourage you. I can motivate you. I can give you skills. I can give you knowledge. But unless you have that get off your ass and go, you're probably looking for a job because you don't have one right now, or you have, like, a shitty job. But that's all on you then. I don't have sympathy for people who aren't willing to put the work in, and, depending on what your leadership style, like, when I was retail manager, that doesn't mean that I don't sweep. It doesn't mean I don't empty garbages. It doesn't mean I don't sell guns and help customers and help my guys unload skids, but it's like any goal in life. If you're not willing to work at it, I don't care how much you could be God's gift to guns. And unless you can talk to someone in a polite fashion and you can get off your high horse to scrub toilets if needed, or do the menial tasks of the gun world. Like, when we were first at FOC, we didn't have a loading dock. I was the so a skid would get dropped off in the parking lot, and all right, boys, sleeves up, we're humping all of this. Have at her, right? And these were the times where customers would be in the store and they'd see us busting our butt and they'd see the sweat rolling, and you know what? They would jump in and start throwing cases with us. you know. And these were the people that would go on to volunteer at our events, and these were the people that, like, I can't tell you how many customers we hired. Almost exclusively was customers we hired. A, because they were around all the time anyways, and B, they generally had a good knowledge set. And, you know, I've had guys leave becoming like what I call like real jobs, which is somewhat demeaning for my own industry, but the gun industry is unique in that sense. But, you know, they've lost being, you know, an electrician, being law enforcement, jobs where you make considerable amounts of money, to do this because they just absolutely love firearms. And I think
it's a passion industry, right?
It's
something you do because you fucking love it, not because you want to make fucking a coin, right?
Well, that's it. You know, like if you talk to the dealers, like, you know, not to ruin anyone's fantasy, but if you think dealers are making $500-$600 off of a gun that they sell for $1,000, we're not. You know, this isn't t-shirts, this isn't fast food. The margins in this industry are piss poor, to be poetic about it, you know. So, you know, just, I guess I always feel a little bit sensitive because I was the guy at the counter getting yelled at, and I have dealt with so much stuff. And it, you know, it's you have to remind yourself of all the amazing customers and the friends you get. You know, like I've had customers come in, and one of our customers, I used to call him Uncle Hernan. His name was Hernan, but he was in all the time. So I'm like, you're my uncle now, Uncle Hernan. You're in all the time, God damn it. But he actually brought like a propane stove, and he cooked paella for us. He was a Colombian dude, and unfortunately, I heard from the guys over at FOC that he like passed away over COVID, which was super sad. And but you know, these are the kind of awesome people you really have a chance to meet. I mean, you know, Hernan wasn't the greatest shooter, but he was just a super nice guy, and he was super friendly. And you know, he and I used to kill ourselves laughing at the counter. And you know, it's sorry to see him go, but you know, you don't get that when you go into, you know, one of the big box stores. Generally, you don't get that when you go and shop for tires. Usually, you know, there's not many people who are sort of outside of a passion industry like cycling or like sporting that you really get someone who's super enthusiastic about what it is they're selling and what it is they're telling you, you know. And saying that, always take what you hear with a grain of salt. Because the counter guys, they can get squirrely. They can get wrong. I've said wild things. BJ said wild things. Anyone who works at a gun store, like, because there's so many old wives' tales that you like grow up with. You know what I mean? As you come, and then like techniques advance. You know, but I love the stereotypes in the community, and I love the stereotypes. And I love my old guys who only shoot 45 Colts. You know, if it wasn't made in the 70s, everything else is garbage. I love my new school surplus guys, even my SKS shoppers, which are a special breed of customers. You know, I love those guys as well. You know, more so than I'm not dealing with them every day, but you know, it's a wild industry, and if you're looking to get into it, man, boy, you've got a lot of fun ahead of you, and it's not as hard as it seems. Walk into your local gun store, send an email. You know, people are hurting for finding really good people. I know a couple stores actually have asked me if I could recommend anyone good to them, from anything from store managers to range officers to counter guys and gals. So the opportunity is out there. You know, you could be like me. If you slave for 10 years, you could be a manufacturer's rep, one of only 5 or 6 reps. There's no benefits, there's no perks, but you do get a free t-shirt.
Well, you got to get better and better discounts on guns the more you work your way up there.
That's the only reason I'm in the industry. I don't want to pay retail.
Honestly, I bought a gun off retail recently. It hurt. It hurt. I didn't enjoy it at all. But I bought a Ruger PC9 because I have an FX9 right now. Obviously, when the ARs went dead, I wanted something that was similar. I like the FX9, but I've always kind of gone between the PC9, and I've never really had a chance to kind of do a side to side. So one came up at Bullseye. No, one came up at Bullseye London, and I just snapped it up. I didn't want to do the.
You know who I am.
You know who I am, damn it.
No, I just grabbed another too. I gotta find an optic, but I'm excited to go shoot that thing. It's a lot of fun.
Well, I got to go down there. So if any of your listeners are going to be at Bullseye London in the next week or so, you know,
You want to take me with
run
you?
into a real life manufacturer's rep, and I can tell you all about CZ sales features and our new rifles, which did launch today. Today was the global launch of the 600 series rifles. As Mike was saying, it's replaced all the 500 series rifles. So the 5.57 and 5.52 are no longer in production. And now we have 5 models of the CZ 600. A little something for everybody, chamberings for everybody. And I'm really excited. Those should be landing in Canada in the new year, early new year. And I hope to have samples a little bit before that. So maybe when I get some, I can come back on and Vanna White them for you. You know who Vanna White is, youngster?
No clue, but the hand motion said it all.
All right, you got the Google homework. Pokeroo and Vanna White.
Right. What's some other references?
Yeah, got to get caught up with the old folks. Fuck.
Have you ever seen The Breakfast Club? That movie?
Never.
Oh God. Kids these days.
I'm a 90s kid. Let's get this 80s and 70s shit out of here.
80s was the last real generation of human beings. Okay?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that's what we say.
Is that an official CZ Canada statement?
That's not an official CZ position. We do have preference for the 80s babies, though. You know, we had the old school gaming system. You know, like me, I'm not a gamer. My last gaming system was legit Nintendo Entertainment System. You know, I had four directions in A and B. That's as high speed as I get in terms of technology.
Teaches you a lot about duck hunting.
No, it's surprisingly misleading. Way better at Nintendo duck hunting. And actually, we still have our system. That's damn near 30 years old now. That's older than you, man. I got a Nintendo that's older than you, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know, like I was saying, it's good to see younger generations come in, and it's good to see, the hunting has seen a huge resurgence of new people getting into it, and not just people who have family ties to hunting. People have no ties, like myself. Like nobody in my family hunts.
Oh, me too. And that's the key, right? If you don't get into the folks that have an interest but don't have those familial ties and the ease to go try it out, then you won't expand the sport or the industry, right?
No, and like I was saying, I was at the CCFR Ladies Day at Select Shooting, and we went out for bite to eat after, and I was sitting at the table, and topic of hunting came up, and I was lamenting that I don't have any access to huntable land, and I don't know anyone to kind of show me the ropes, and I'm a super greenhorn. And Jamie from the Canadian Sportswomen's Society said, well, shit, we're organizing a men's hunting weekend because we get so many requests. Like, obviously, their focus is on women in the hunting community and introducing women. But she's had so many requests for people exactly like me that are dying to get out there into the woods and hunt, but just have nowhere to do it and not a lot of practical field knowledge about how to do it. And so, she invited me, and I went up, and unfortunately I wasn't successful, but I learned a ton. I met a lot of cool people who were also in the hunt camp. There was a young guy there. It was his first time ever hunting. He shot a bear. I hate him. I'll never speak to him again. But, up until that point, he was a really nice guy, and we spent a day and a half yucking it up, and then he shot a bear, and I can't stand the sight of him. But, it's, again, with that openness and that eagerness, people who are more knowledgeable, we do have somewhat of an obligation. And the same way people are taking me out hunting, I've taken people out shooting. And I was saying my friend who is a social worker, and unfortunately his only experience of firearms is the criminal aspect of his clients, realistically, because he works with youth justice, and his perception of guns is murder machines, right? And the entire time that I brought the idea up, it was all about murder, and it was all about killing, and it was all about this. And then I took him out, and he was terrible. And it clicked into his head like, oh man, there's, because he started getting into it, right? And then you want to get better. And so he starts asking me questions, and I start, okay, stand like this, hold like this, because I don't like to give people too much information beyond the safety stuff, a general idea. This is how you hold it, this is how you stand, this is blah, 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 blah. We all know. And he was just super into it. And that's where like all of the negative aspects of shooting, and he had like a really great time because he was exposed to the skill of shooting and the skill and the practice of shooting beyond, what his clients may use it for in their day-to-day lives. And like, it was a progression. Like, he came over and like, he's known some firearm owner ever since I've, he's been my friend forever, and I don't hide it from him. And, at one of our hangouts, I was just like, because we were talking about guns and, they're so bad, this and that, and this and that, and they need to ban them, and they need to ban them. And I said, have you ever seen a gun? You want to see one? Like, you want to hold a gun and see what it actually feels like and stuff? And I went up and I got him a pistol, and I showed him, like, this is how we show it safe. And, don't worry, there's no ammunition around. We're not insane. It's not about what your experience is. That is a slice of it, but that's not the totality of what firearms is. And that's why I was saying it is so unique. There's a really interesting book, if your readers or your listeners are interested in it. I forget the title of it, but it's basically on the history of the AK, but it's from a sociological perspective, and it talks about not only the history of the AK-47, which again is an iconic firearm. It's probably one firearm that silhouette is internationally known, whether you've ever handled a gun or not. And 100%. How, sorry?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, right. Like, everyone knows what the silhouette of an AK looks like with big banana mag. And they talk about, countries that have the AK on the flag as a sign of liberation, and countries that have outright bans because, they've been abused by them, or it has been the instrument of their torture for years and years and years. And how, as you travel across the globe, this one gun means so many different things to so many people. And, from an American perspective, they've been fighting AK-47s ever since they were developed, right? And at the same time appreciating them and looking at, Vietnam War, where GIs were ditching their rifles to pick up the AKs because of their reliability and, certain issues that arose out of that, because it has a very, in this case, distinct sound. As BJ knows, the chugga 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 of an AK-47 is unique in itself. Honestly, one of the awesomest guns to fire. Probably closest to the SKS. So everyone who craps on the SKS about it being a terrible gun, I resent that comment. And the SKS is an awesome gun. Very close to shooting a AK. But sorry, how it caused issues because soldiers would hear the fire and they would think it would be enemy combatants, and they would in turn fire upon the sound. In which case it was actually friendly fire, because guys were picking up the AKs because the M16s were just getting killed by the mud and the muck and the mire. But
that's fascinating. Never
that's
heard that
the
one
historical tip I have. Other than that, I'm complete ignorance.
Just fresh out, eh?
Just fresh out. Lugers were used in the Second World War. There's long ones and short ones.
Yeah, there you go. Two facts for the night.
2 factoids. But
alrighty,
yeah.
Well, we're at an hour and 45.
That's my
I think
fault.
Adam started
You
wrapping
made a
up
mistake in
about
cutting me.
45 minutes ago.
BJ promised me it was going to be 45 minutes, and then you put a mic in front of me and I prattle on, and
it's great. It's what the fellas want to hear.
I don't know if it's great, but it's something, and it's an hour and 45 minutes of it.
You're definitely something, Adam.
It's definitely something. But,
all right, last words. What do you got to say, Adam? We're
gonna be on for another hour.
Yeah, where can we find you first of all?
You can't. No need. Get in touch with if you have any problems with CZ, get in touch with your local gun store. They know how to get a hold of me. Otherwise, if you have a warranty issue, you'll find me. But no, my big word of advice is make sure you teach someone further down the line than you are, or further behind the line than you are. Get out and support your local gun store, support your organizations, donate your time, donate your money, support them with your dollars. And just remember that behind whatever issue you encounter in the industry as a consumer, there's a human being on the other end, and, cut them a little bit of slack. unless they're being an asshole, and then by all means flame them on, and I support you. But yeah, create opportunities for people to get into it. Otherwise, we're not going to have an industry, right? And that's my big takeaway.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna
Well
look up
said.
a way to leave Adam a negative review and start
direct to CZ headquarters.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Maybe I need
This-
to learn Czech. Who knows? Worst case, you can always fall
Google
back
Translate.
on the recruiting
Listen, I will accompany you to the Czech Republic.
100%.
But actually, you know, like in my role, like I am looking for ways to, you know, so if some of your listeners, they are club members, they are organization members, you know, if you've got a charity, a fundraiser, you know, I'm sure you can direct them my way. I'm looking to support the industry. I'm looking to support notable people who are actually creating opportunities for other shooters in the industry. And I feel like that's kind of what I owe the people who have taught me in the industry. And I know Ben can attest. My first manager at Target Sports, his name was Paul. Became a dear friend of mine who passed away a number of years after we met. But I called him when I heard the job was always actually kind of a funny story for me. I called and I demanded a job, which I don't recommend for most people who aren't me. But I was doing a security bid for 2 weeks and I couldn't get there in time. And I just called him every couple of days to let him know that I'm the guy that you're going to hire, and keep that job open for me, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. And, you know, I guess I got through, and he actually gave me an opportunity, you know, and beyond all the prattling on, he kind of got me into the industry, and he became like I said, a really close friend and mentor. And I always look at my career as kind of like I owe him to create these opportunities for other people as well, you know. And I owe him, like he always was, like a stand-up, honest and super caring guy, and that's kind of what I try to do in my business and in my professional life. And yeah, if you really have an issue or you got a question about CZ, you know, check out CZ Canada, leave me a message there. They'll fire it on to me. I don't handle the social media because I'm a 80s baby dinosaur, so I don't know what I'm doing. But you can get a hold of me, and like I said, my finishing words, and I'll shut up, is create opportunities for new shooters, or I will find you. I have a unique skill set, and Ben will film it, and then we'll put it on the podcast and publicly shame you.
Oh, beautiful.
No, we appreciate you, Adam, and everything you do. And this has been a really good time. It's nice to catch up.
I paid him to say that, and actually,
not enough.
I will admit something. When Ben was on the podcast last, he reached out to me and he asked me if I would join him, and it was last minute and it was late, and I said no because I'm a shitty friend. And then,
but an expert shooter, so it's okay.
Yeah, and then expert shooter, I taught you everything you know. And then when you asked me about, I turned around and asked Ben, and he was the better of the friends, and he came on and supported me. So, you know,
there
Ben,
you go.
Close personal friend, someone I met through the gun world.
Have you taught him everything you know in terms of your skincare routine?
No, please.
Oh,
some things are personal. Goddammit.
Wow.
I keep trying, but he won't unlock the beard secrets for me. I'm working on him.
Yeah, I need a little bit too.
Actually, I'm pretty trimmed up. I had a miscommunication with the new barber, and cut me down pretty drastically. But beard growing is my shooting. Beard growing. These are my only two uses in life.
Accurate.
But thanks for having me on, guys. I'll let you go because I'm sorry, Ben. I've doubled this on you. I didn't mean to.
Apologize. I love you, man.
I wanted to keep it to 45 minutes an hour. But yeah.
No, it's been a slice. So big thanks to our sponsors as always: Cabela's, Savage, Beretta, and our friends there at Vortex Canada. So yeah, without them, we wouldn't be able to provide the same quality of programming to CUSF students across the country. So cheers and thanks again for the support. So yeah, awesome. Appreciate your guys' time. Appreciate you guys coming on. And yeah, until next time, we'll do another hour and 50.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, call me the next time you want to break like a Guinness World Record for like longest podcast, or if you want to raise money and you got to fill like 10 hours of airtime, I'll come talk about nothing for a while.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, we'll shoot for 6 hours next time then, right?
Oh yeah. Well, when I'm out your way, man, I'm gonna look you up, and you're gonna take me hunting, and I'll buy you a beer or whatever soft drink you like.
Oh, fuck off! I'll tell you about the fucking cougar this weekend.
I don't want to hear about your sex life.
Alrighty.
I guess I don't know how to sign off on here. There's probably a button that.
Yeah.
You can
Beautiful.
Right on. Have a good one, boys. That was great.
Ciao.
Cheers.
See you guys.
Thank you again for tuning in. We meet again on the next podcast.